I was accepted into the 7th class of the 1943 Women's Air Force Service Pilots.
I am a World War II Marine Corps veteran. I enlisted on my 20th birthday. Women are veterans too.
When the war broke out, I went to enlist in the Naval Air Corps. After being turned down 3 times by them, I went down to the Army Air Corps, and within a week I was gone. And that's how I got in the service.
I'm a native of Colorado, went into the Marine Corps in August of '63, had 2 extended tours in Vietnam, and all of that was on the ground from one end of the country to the next.
All you could think about was what we did because we needed to do it for our country.
After I turned 18, I was drafted. I was shipped to Camp Van Dorn, Mississippi, to the 63rd Infantry Division. The day after Thanksgiving, we climbed on a boat and went to Europe.
I was probably in the service about 6 months before I was assigned to a B-17. A B-17 consists of 10 members. I was the tail gunner. I was in 5 major battles.
I enlisted in the Navy when I was about 17 years old. I lost my hearing in the military during an explosion of anti-aircraft gun. Blew up.
I was 18 years old and I went to Fort Knox and I did my training there. I was the tank commander, master sergeant.
Proudest achievement was getting my wings. That was a lot of work. I was very, very proud. I was off to Lehigh University in Pennsylvania to study for a PhD in mathematics. And decided at that time, if I was going to get drafted, I would rather go in the Navy and try and be a pilot. Went through basic flight training. At the end of that time, at the end of the year and a half, I got my wings, designated naval aviator.
I grew up as an inner city kid in downtown DC. I went to the Naval Academy. I was always interested in aviation. The Navy sent me to postgraduate school. They sent me to Stanford University, and then they put me back in the cockpit. Thought going back to the fleet and back to a cockpit was the right thing to do. And turns out probably was the right thing to do. I assumed command of USS Midway 25th of March, 1975.
You're looking at one of the oldest Marine Corps drill instructors living. A man by General Lewis H. Wilson said to me, "Do you want to go down to the drill field again?" I said, "No." But what the major said, Estes, is that we need Marines like you down there on the drill field again. So I went back down on the drill field again. I was lean and I was mean.
The American soldier, American infantry, would get up every morning and go ahead. Every day we went ahead. No beds to sleep in. Sometimes you just lay on the ground and go to sleep.
My husband was exceptional in the fact that we were a husband and wife veteran team. I had a skill. I could take 120 words a minute dictation. So I took court-martial while I was in the service, and that was a big deal. And I was always in the office of the commanding officer. I was very proud of it, and I had a right to be, but everything that the men do, we did.
It was in 1943, and they were just really desperate for airplanes, you know. I was approached by my teacher, and she said, "Honey, how would you like to make airplanes?" And we made leading edges and trailing edges of B-17s. It was wonderful, wonderful.
Well, I was in New Guinea, I was in the Philippine Islands, and I was in Okinawa. I was in mostly B-25s. B-25 has a crew of six men. We flew bombing missions.
I was taking flying lessons before the war. Then when the war started and there was a tremendous shortage of pilots, they went to the women who had licenses to help. We went through the same physical requirements and the same training that the aviation cadets, the male cadets, went through. And I had the privilege of being one of the first women in this country to fly military aircraft.
The cannon. Most of the time it was breaking down. You have to learn how to put together again. You got to do your part and make sure our tankers was better than theirs. And not just a little better, a lot better. We worked together as a group to get it that way.
We received orders to commence the evacuation or Operation Frequent Land. Pretty soon, this little airplane shows up and starts circling the ship. And we put glasses on and we could see the pilot. We could see somebody sitting behind the pilot looked like they were holding a child. The admiral at the time was telling me to tell the airplane to ditch it and that we would rescue him. Well, you don't have to be a genius to look and somebody's holding one in arms and he ditches it. That one's gone. The pilot's probably going to die because he's trying to save his family, and he's not going to give up. He probably had planned to crash it on board if we didn't give him a chance. I called the air boss and said, okay, let's make a ready deck. We're going to give him a shot at it. No matter what I do, none of the decisions are good. I probably pushed $100 million worth of equipment over the side. So we got him captured, and they brought him up to the bridge, and the only thing I could think of, I took off my wings and made him an honorary naval aviator right on the spot.
Spend the days in a foxhole, and naturally, mine happened to be overlooking the German town, and I didn't dare stick my head up during the day because of the snipers. But hey, I lived through it.
By serving your country, you have a great deal of gratitude on what you received from your country.
They had what they call the GI Bill of Rights, which gave us a free education. Most of us were poor then. There's no way in the world you could get an education on your own. And so I got a degree in accounting. See, I'm a retired CPA. To me, that was a tremendous reward. The GI Bill of Rights was one of the best gifts the country ever gave me.
There was no legislation that provided for women military pilots in the Air Force, and we eventually received veterans benefits. We were recognized as veterans. I'm so pleased.
Now I think how wonderful that we were forerunners to what the girls are doing now.
About 3 years ago, I heard about the French medal. Anybody that was in France in combat would qualify. Late November, she calls me, she says, "You're going to get the medal."
I had 19 years, 6 months, 24 days, and 2 hours that counted on 20. Once a Marine, always a Marine. Huh?
The people in the Navy are the thing that really make it the Navy. You can learn a lot and grow a lot and be a much better person, I think, for having done that.
When you're in a crisis, you do the best you can. You make the best decision you can. You have to live with the result.
Of all the things that I did, I still think the greatest thing that I achieved was the opportunity to serve my country.